Charlotte has gone through a complete transformation in the past few decades. From back in 1986, when it was a quiet, unassuming city with very modest commercial activity, to now, the second largest basin in the US behind New York City, as well as one of the strongest healthcare metros and fastest growing cities in the nation. Tens of thousands of people come here each year, attracted to the affordability and access to opportunity they can't find anywhere else. That's why billions of dollars are being poured here into massive projects. And today, I'll be covering 5 of the biggest. And just so I'm not a complete stranger to you, my name is Athan. I'm a Duke graduate, and as a realtor and 13-year resident, I'm very familiar with everything going on in my city. My goal for this video, like all the rest, is to completely wow you with valuable, dense information so that if you end up deciding to move here, you feel confident in reaching out to my team and I to help you with that process. So with all that out the way, let's get started. So the first and biggest project on this list is Charlotte's $15 billion 2055 transit system plan. It's also the project with the most uncertain timeline, but when it eventually pans out, and it will, this will have the most impact on your day-to-day life here in Charlotte. The plan ambitiously details 2 huge new rail line systems. Their biggest and most impactful is the Silver Line, an extensive 29-mile east-west light rail that would connect the airport to uptown and various jobs, neighborhoods, and suburbs from Belmont in the west all the way to Matthews and Indian Trail in the east. So literally from one side of Charlotte to the other. And the other equally large project is the Red Line, a 25-mile commuter rail connecting northern county towns like Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson in the Lake Norman area to uptown Charlotte, finally giving commuters a fast, reliable alternative to the insane rush hour congestion on I-77. Together, these 2 rails would evolve Charlotte from the low-density, sprawling, car-dependent city that we know it as today to a connected, modern metro that can compete with any of the other US major cities. And with Mecklenburg County expected to gain almost 750,000 residents by 2055 and local jobs projected to grow nearly 47%, these initiatives could not come at a better time. Of course, mixed in this plan are other smaller scale public transit improvements, like a complete revamp of the bus system to service more people at more frequent times, as well as a 6-mile extension to their Gold Line streetcar system, and a widespread improvements to public roads and highways. But while these plans are all well and good to have, let's explore exactly what we have done to make any of this a reality. In 1998, Mecklenburg voters approved a half-cent sales tax for transit. This led them to establishing our modern-day bus system, as well as building the Lynx Blue Line in 2007. This line would go on to transform the South End area from old warehouses and vacant lots to one of the busiest, most vibrant, fastest-growing districts in our city today. They also used the money to build the Gold Line streetcar in 2015 with an extension in 2021. But besides these efforts, Charlotte has struggled to keep the plan moving. Even way back then, 25 years ago, they had the plans for the Silver and Red Line, but they have just never been able to make any meaningful progress with them. Of course, the Silver Line, being the most expensive and ambitious, was always struggling to pass various hurdles, and the plans of where exactly the rail lines would go have never been able to be set in stone. The Red Line, however, seemed to be a much easier task, as they already knew exactly where to put it. The O-Line, an existing rail corridor for freight trains that ran almost parallel to I-77 and passed directly through the downtowns of Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson. All it needed was to be upgraded to accommodate passengers, with stations and improvements to specific parts of the track, saving billions of dollars in the process. Except there was one problem. The current owners of the rail, Norfolk Southern, weren't interested in giving up their ownership. You see, they had been using the line for freight services, moving goods like shipping containers, coal and steel, and even though their usage here was much lower compared to their main lines, they still wanted to preserve this railway exclusively for freight and had no interest in the added complexity and liability that sharing the rail with commuter trains would bring. So for literally 20 years, the Red Line sat idle until finally in 2023, Norfolk Southern sent a letter to Charlotte that they were finally open to considering a transaction. In September 2024, Charlotte bought the O-Line for $91 million. They immediately got to work in updating and finalizing the plans, and yet quickly hit another roadblock as the Gateway Station had yet to be completed. This is the actual station in Uptown Charlotte where people would get off. And not only was the Red Line depending on this, but also every single other different form of Charlotte's future public transit system. Nothing can start without this first getting taken care of, and the station's progress has stalled. because of course it has. To make a long story short, the actual railway infrastructure was completed in 2022, allowing trains to come in and out of the station, but the actual station itself still needs to be built so it can be open to the public. But funding hasn't been secured, because of course it hasn't. While the full station originally planned to be completed by 2030, that no longer looks realistic, and now there's talks of building a bare-bones temporary station by 2027 for the Amtrak trains, as they currently service over 300,000 passengers a year in their rundown 1960s station on the edge of town. But doing that and making that temporary station actually risks delaying all the other transit plans even further, because this temporary station would only accommodate the Amtrak and would have to be rebuilt and demolished in some parts to eventually make space for the full range of transit options. As you can tell, it's very messy, as is this whole public transit situation. And now everyone is waiting for the general election ballot coming up this November. After years and years of lobbying Raleigh, finally in 2025, the General Assembly passed the PAVE Act, giving Mecklenburg permission to hold a 1-cent sales tax referendum exclusively for public transportation. I cannot underscore how much of a win this is for us. Our last public transit sales tax wasn't since 1998, like I was talking about before, and didn't account for the insane levels of growth we'd end up hitting thereafter. So if voters approve this, we could raise up to $19.4 billion over the next 30 years that would go straight into our public transit systems. So if you currently live here, make sure this November that you vote yes to the 1-cent sales tax so we can finally get the transit systems we deserve and get rid of that gosh darn traffic. So that's the first of our massive projects that we're covering, and I cannot tell you how much time I spend researching and planning for all these videos. I dare you to find another realtor that cares as much as I do, because you won't be able to find one. They all push out that same generic ChatGPT AI slop. But I know how big of a decision it is to move to a new city, which is why I work very hard to pack these videos with as much important, detailed information as possible. So if you need my help, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My number is literally down below in the description. And consider subscribing, as it's free and it helps more than you know. But let's keep going, because this project was just the beginning. So up next on our massive development list is the $6 billion River District. This is Charlotte's 1,400-acre master plan community being built on the west side between the Catawba River and the Charlotte Douglas Airport. First proposed in 2016, this ambitious project aims to turn what was mostly forest and farmland into a new mini-city of homes, offices, shops, and parks. The location is very intentional. It's the largest undeveloped tract of land outside of Charlotte's Beltway, and its proximity to one of the nation's busiest airports guarantees economic growth for businesses and employees alike. They plan to open the Catawba River to the public with more than 500 acres of green space, a riverfront park, and every outdoor event you can imagine. Overall, this project is a great step in the right direction for Charlotte. Historically, we have struggled with large, low-density urban sprawl as no one ever thought Charlotte would grow to be this big. This master plan community allows us to plan housing, infrastructure, schools, businesses, and everything from day one, increasing the quality of life for all of us. Charlotte's Ballantyne is a great example of this. Built in the 90s and early 2000s, the 2,000-acre master planned community is now one of Charlotte's most desirable suburbs, with their many amenities and convenience of life. But of course, there are a lot of drawbacks to master planned communities that critics fear are going to be repeated in the River District. Longtime residents worry that the rise of land values, property taxes, and rents will push out people who have already been living there for a long time, particularly in lower-income, historically Black neighborhoods that make up parts of West Charlotte. Others worry that the character of the rural and country feel of the area will be bulldozed over and lost for more corporate, soul-sucking buildings that Charlotte is sadly infamous for. Traffic is also expected to triple once this area is fully built. And to mitigate this, West Boulevard is being extended to handle the flow to 45, but critics worry that this plan assumes driving will be the primary mode for transportation, with no public transit alternatives. There is one thing, however, that the River District is getting right from the get-go, which is their emphasis on sustainability. They have earned the One Planet Living designation, which is about living within the environmental limits of the area. And only 2 other North American developments have been able to achieve this. Whether this is because the constraints are impossible to achieve or that North Americans aren't focused on the environment, I'll let you decide. However, the framework consists of 10 principles that cover all aspects of sustainability, from zero waste and protecting land to pillars focusing on community well-being, social equity, and access to nature. The River District broke ground in 2022 and has been on schedule, with the first homes and a 318-unit apartment complex opening by the end of this year. A second phase, bringing the Riverfront Park and more housing, will be completed by 2028. But the entire district will still take 2 to 3 more decades to develop completely. Until then, this project is steadily laying the foundation for a vibrant community along the Catawba River that future generations of Charlotte will be proud to call home. Up next, we have The Pearl, the $1.5 billion innovation district in Midtown Charlotte. Backed by Atrium Health and Wake Forest University, this 26-acre development will host the new Wake Forest School of Medicine Charlotte campus alongside research labs, corporate innovation centers, offices, apartments, shops, and public spaces. The name The Pearl honors Pearl Street Park, a historic African-American park nearby, acknowledging the history of the formerly black neighborhood Brooklyn. This thriving city used to occupy the whole Second Ward area where the Pearl would be now, but with Jim Crow legislations targeting black communities, the entire neighborhood was bulldozed over in the 1960s, leading to generations of families losing their homes and communities. So yeah, now the Pearl's changed their name and they've put up a few pillars where you can read about the tragic history of the area, which is like, it's better than nothing, but it's not much. The developers care way more about building their whole innovation district. And to be fair, Charlotte has really needed a medical school. Before this, it was the largest city in the US without any kind of 4-year medical school, leading to constant physician shortages. But this school allows physicians to train locally and stay here when they're done, boosting healthcare access across the board. They're working hard to build up the local biotech and life sciences sector here in Charlotte, building us up from just your typical banking town. Impressively, they've stayed right on track with their buildings, despite launching during the pandemic, with the first 2 buildings of the med school and research building completed this past June. They're mostly privately funded, so no one's been dragging their feet when it comes to their own money. In July, the inaugural class of 49 medical students began, and the plan is to ramp up to 100 MD students per year by 2030. So stay tuned, because this is going to be a major game changer for Charlotte's reputation as a medical and research hub. And speaking of game changers, I keep saying this, but if you and your family are thinking of moving to the Charlotte area and need help from a local expert to make your move here as seamless and easy as possible, call, text, email me anytime, because all my info is down below and my team and I would be honored to help you. And if you're enjoying the video, consider subscribing. It's free and it helps a ton. Next up is Charlotte's $800 million renovation of the Bank of America Stadium, home to the NFL Carolina Panthers and now Major League Soccer Charlotte FC. An aging stadium built in 1966, the Panthers organization has long called for renovations or a new stadium, threatening to leave if they don't get what they want. Charlotte's agreed to pay for $650 million of the cost to postpone talks of a new stadium for the next 20 years and contractually keeping the teams here at least until 2040. And this isn't new. Sports teams have long been threatening cities to meet their demands or risk them leaving. Teams argue that they can do this because they bring a lot of economic benefit and tourism, as well as pride and identity to the city, though the reports say otherwise. In terms of economic benefit, there is no meaningful difference in cost when you consider the opportunity cost of what that money can go to instead. And they find that the dollars that are spent in these sports stadiums would still be spent in other places. And that when teams end up leaving, there is no significant difference on the economic output of the city. However, there is a real argument to sports teams building the culture of the city. As we all know that big cities like Boston or Philadelphia would not be half of what they are without their sports teams. And with Charlotte long been struggling with building their culture and sense of character, the last thing we need is to lose our sports teams. So in June 2024, the city of Charlotte approved the plan to modernize the 75,000-seat stadium, with work slated to begin in 2025 and conclude by 2029. The renovations are supposedly for the fans. There's going to be social spaces with skyline views, and exterior South Lawn Plaza reimagined as a community gathering space, new video boards and sound systems, revamped concourses, upgraded seating throughout the bowl, improved accessibility for disabled fans, and overhauled restrooms. Notably though, this project does not add a roof or dome. forever capping the potential of the stadium to host big-time events like the Super Bowl. And others complain that the outward-facing screen is a waste of public resources and that the money shouldn't be invested until the team actually starts to win some games, with an 8-year and counting losing season. And in general, the sentiment seems to be that Charlotte got screwed. The Tepper Group that owns the stadium, long known for their questionable business practices, rushed city council members with a 3-week notice to make a decision on this project without them being able to fully evaluate the terms. The group also intentionally limited public engagement as much as possible, which was a smart move because eventually opposition came 4-1. Ultimately though, this stadium will continue to go through and hopefully can be a major part of Charlotte's cultural growth. Lastly, we have the $750 million skyline-changing project called the Queensbridge Collective. This 2-tower skyscraper is under construction at the southern edge of uptown Charlotte, where it meets the fast-growing and trendy South End district. It replaces the old site of the Midnight Diner and Uptown Cabaret, which was a strip club. And the first of the 2 high-rises is about to be completed, standing as a 45-story luxury apartment tower, becoming the second tallest residential building in Charlotte, behind only The View at 51 stories. The second tower will be 35 stories of modern Class A office space designed to attract the best-in-class Fortune 500 companies. The whole project aims to be the premium standard for living, an entire ecosystem that you never have to leave. Not only are businesses, restaurants, and apartments all in the same building, but the project is also packed with every amenity you can imagine, like a 1-acre publicly accessible rooftop park, a full fitness center, basketball and pickleball courts, a pool, and co-working spaces, just to name a few. The scale and ambition of the project is very impressive and only possible due to its prime location in 2 of the most desirable and fastest growing parts of Charlotte. It gets its name, Queensbridge Collective, because of Charlotte's nickname as the Queen City, as well as because of its goal to be a bridge between Uptown and South End. With Charlotte growing at a rapid pace and high earners and companies moving in, the project aims to attract either a major corporate headquarters or multiple firms, bringing jobs and daytime activity to the area. And at a time when many other projects in Charlotte have slowed, this initiative has continued to move forward, a sign of confidence in the city's growth and an employer's shift towards newer, amenity-rich buildings. The general sentiment is high optimism for the new housing and community this development will create. And when you look at everything happening right now, it's clear Charlotte is once again on the edge of another transformation. From where the city was in 1985 to where it is now to where it will go decades from now. Charlotte never stops growing, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But that's all for me. YouTube thinks you'll like this video.